and live. I am driving through Athens. I've already gone through the downtown area, and make sure this is on this mount. Get it up, and it's stuck. But yeah, I am driving through Athens, my hometown, and I went to see my grandmother today with my daughter. So we took a nice little road trip to see my grandma. And it's important to spend time with our elders. We learn so much from them. Um, and so I sat and talked with my grandmother today, and I get bits and pieces. This is my mom's mom, and then my father's mom. She passed about 4 years ago, but I used to sit with her. I spent a lot of time with her too, and so I have her stories, and she shared a lot of knowledge with me and stuff like that. And that's the cool thing about grandparents. They get in a place where they want to talk and they want to tell everything and recount, the past. And the more grandkids you got, the better, because you got a lot of people to share it with. And Lord knows, our elders like to talk. They love to talk. So anyhow, I um I sat at my grandma's house and she was just, she was talking about all kind of stuff and she was sharing things with me. She showed me some pictures from her sisters. We have an interesting family history. Um, because we have the dark line of Smiths and the light line of Smiths. And the dark line of Smiths stayed here, and the light ones they all went up north. And so they went to Chicago and D.C. and what else? She had told me another place. What is it? Was it Baltimore? It was somewhere else. Hartford. I think it's Hartford, Connecticut. So the light skinned Smiths, they went, that's my grandma's lineage, directly from Seaborn Smith, plantation owner in Georgia. So that's my great great grandfather. Is a white man named Seaborn Smith. And I got his picture. I got my great great grandmother's slave picture, or at least the oil painting. So I know what she looks like. I know what he looks like. There's a photograph of him and his wife, his white wife. And my grandmother is very quiet about that. And it was interesting because of the colorism she shared today. She said she was the black sheep. And I was like, black sheep? And then she showed me a picture of her sister and all of her sisters who were kind of passing. And I asked her, I said, did they all marry black people? That particular generation, they married black. The next generation, they married white. They married white, which is very interesting. Oh, wow. That Chick-fil-A is spectacular. You see that, Luna? Look at that. All the lights. So I'm driving back to Atlanta from Athens. I'm taking my time. I gotta brave the damn deers on Highway 78. I don't know. I don't know how long my Wi-Fi, not my Wi-Fi, but my cell service will work. So anyway, but I want to talk about my grandmother gave me a pen and it says blessed. She said it was a special pen she wanted to give specifically to me. So I have it on now and I'm going to take it home and put it up. And she said, as your grandmother, I'm blessing you right now. So I love it. I love it. My grandmother is a praying person. And so she was just sharing a whole bunch of stuff with us and spending time with my daughter. And she loves being a great grandmother. That is a blessing to be a great grandmother. That means you lived a long life. That means you've accomplished something. You managed to pull your family through a lot of different things through generations. That's an accomplishment. Because y'all know it's a lot of ups and downs in life. especially when you got a bunch of children. Not a bunch, but more than one. You talking about, really getting something done. Uh, I don't know how women have done it. I honestly don't. I have a very supportive husband and we're comfortable, but boy, one kid is plenty. I don't know how people do have it at three, four, five, six, seven. So I found out today as I was talking, this is my great grandfather, my grandmother's father. I found out today that he had 9 kids total. So he had 4 daughters, but he had 2 children before those 4. See, I didn't know about that. That's why it's so good to talk. She gave me the names and where they lived at. They passed away and what years they were born. They were born in 1930s. Oh my God. That's so long ago. My grandma was born in 1941. Like, wow, isn't that something? 1941. I'm like, damn, you old. So so I come to find out that the slave master, great great grandfather I have, had a son who is my great grandfather. You can tell he's mixed. And then my grandmother, who's very light skinned, but everybody else was much, much lighter. And I guess they married other light skinned black people when they went up north to the point where they were so light that they married white. A lot of them married white, male and female. They married white second the generation after that. So they don't look like us. The Smiths that moved up north, they do not look like the Smiths that stayed down south, like my grandma. My grandma's very light skinned. So when she showed me her picture of her sister, I was like, oh, I see. You know, they almost passed for white. Almost, almost. And so that's kind of, I guess that's the issue that exists is that the Smiths of the North kind of, in a way, have tried to water themselves down every generation, marrying more white, more white, more white, to the point where the black is kind of out. When I saw them, I was like, I don't know them people. They don't look nothing like me. And I mean, if we're just gonna keep it real, it's kind of intentional. It's intentional, and you have to know that. You have to know that. Um, it's kind of intentional. And so I don't know how does that make people feel? I'm just speaking, freely. How does that make you feel if you the brown people, right, that identified as black and you stayed in the South and there's that arm of the family, and then you have the ones who kind of went mulatto to white somewhat intentionally, generation after generation to the point where the black is washed out. Now, I understand that the Smiths in DC are some kind of boule. I don't know about the ones that are in other places because I didn't know about those different other connections. I know one of my aunt's sisters, she ended up being brown like my grandma, and she, browner like my grandma, and she ended up moving to Chicago, and she joined Nation of Islam. They've been a Nation of Islam all this time. And she married a very dark man, and so there's that branch between Atlanta, because she lived in Atlanta before Chicago, and so there's that Nation of Islam connection. But basically, her kids they live in Atlanta too. So the dark Smiths all stayed in the South. And for the most part, outside of that aunt who joined the Nation of Islam, married a dark black man. Outside of her, everybody else kind of pretty much went pale. That's the best way to say it. This is family history. I mean, I'm stomaching it, and I just talked to my aunt, and she was telling me, that connection exists in the DC area, and I call them boule based on what I know, but I don't know if they would call themselves that. Um, looks like a duck, smells like a duck. And I would say, when I say boule, I mean, it's kind of like black people who I don't know them, but it looks to me like black people who take they go bourgeoisie, and they take the benefits of being that mixed mulatto upper class, and they can switch depending on the present company. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that. I don't know, but it looks like based on what I know. 'Cause they don't deny there's some black in there. You know what I'm saying? They don't deny the Brown Smiths either. They don't deny that. And my aunt went up there and met them, but they don't. When I say they don't look nothing like us, they don't look nothing like us. Nothing. They look like some kind of Arab people, maybe Turkish. They look Turkish to me. The Smiths look Turkish. You can see something in there, but it don't necessarily look black. So the Smiths that kept intermarrying with white, they look kind of like Turkish people. So that's why I'd be like, But my aunt, she's very, very, the light skin slipped in. She's very, very, very light skinned. So I think that's the little colorism we have. Colorism doesn't mean a bad thing. It just means identity. And she was so glad to find them because then now she's not the only. Everybody here is brown except her. My aunt is very pale. She's about pale as white people. So the genetics pop out, man. That's that Seaborn Smith slave father, slave great great grandfather popped out on my aunt. And her whole life, she was picked at because she's the only pale one, and everybody else is brown for the most part. My grandma's very, very light, but she's clearly a black person. And that is probably hard growing up in the South and you just pale as fuck and people talking about you don't belong in that family, you adopted, why are you there? That ain't your sister, y'all lying, that type of shit. So it's kind of like refreshing for her. It's kind of like in a way, a little bit like her finding her tribe within her tribe already. Just as far as identity, because colorism carries a lot of heaviness for a lot of people. I'm brown, thank God, so I don't have no kind of issues either way. I just don't. Are you eating that food, Mama? Eat your food, girl. I just sat there and spent $7 on that damn Chick-fil-A. You better eat. You better eat. So, so what else did she share with me? She shared with me that great granddaddy had us. This is what I'm finding out. These men in the South is something else, honey. They have multiple families. So she told me, because I didn't know about these other two. So before my grandmother, they always have what you call an established family. And that's one that they make sure they marry the woman and all the kids is legitimate and they didn't did it in the church, had the wedding, but they have different iterations. They have different fucking iterations, these men in the South. They a trip. You'll find this in a lot of families. And so there was my great great granddaddy, his established family, right, is the one where he married my great great grandmother. I'm sorry, not yes, my great great grandmother. No, that's my great grandmother. He married my great grandmother, a proper woman, church wedding, all of that. They have 4 children in wedlock. But before he met her, he had 2. So he already had a family. Okay. Now, some of this shit be overlapping, but it's hard to tell. People don't like to talk about these things. Some of this shit be overlapping, or it might overlap a lot. People don't talk about it. So he had family one, and then he had his established family, right? These are the ones you take to church, and everybody in this community know that this is your children's. Everybody recognizes them, but they know about them other ones too. But this is the recognized family, okay? So that's where my grandma came from. 4 girls, and it's 2 of them turned out really pale and the other 2 turned out brown. This is because of the great grandfather. The great great grandfather is a white man named Seaborn Smith, slave holder. Okay, he had, I believe it was 6 children with this black woman, my great great grandmother, who was his slave while he was married. You understand? You see what I'm saying? You see the pattern here. These men have women and children all over the goddamn place. So my grandmother shared with me that I did not know he had a family before her family. Okay. And then he had a family after that. So her mother died and he remarried another lady and he started another family. He had 3 kids there. So my great grandfather has 9 children, 3 different families. That's very interesting. Now, my one of those children, which would be a step sister, grandmother, she passed away on Saturday. Strangely, she's my fucking age. This is what happened when you have children along your whole life lineage as a man. You have children who are young enough to be the grandchildren of your other children. So my grandmother's stepsister is my age, which is very strange, but she passed away unexpectedly. I do believe that COVID had a she say, yeah. And so I'm coming back from my mom's and I'm recounting some of the stuff she shared with me. She shared me all her sisters, her 4 sisters, and she was telling me who's light skinned, who's dark skinned, who's a dark smith, who's a light smith, and where they went. A lot of people felt like they could do better if they left the South, especially if they were light skinned. They could become a lotto class and just, use their skin tone as something that benefits them. So I'm still debating whether or not I want to meet the light skinned Smiths or not. My aunt, she's second year. She goes up there to DC. She sees them. And she said they're very decent. I told you, I think, they bougie, but I don't know. I'm debating. I shouldn't be so, what's the word? So simple minded. They look, I mean, what to say? They don't look like nobody I would have anything in common, but they do know they're black, so that's not a big deal. I don't know. I'm still not sure. But anyway, we started talking about. She was telling me about different areas of Athens where she grew up, and she was telling me about uh, gardens, and she was telling me everybody used to have a garden. She was talking about you halfway could never ever if you had a garden. People didn't put up big fences and shit, like they do now. And black folks didn't have no money to be going and buying a whole bunch of lumber so that you can, cover your whole yard and your fence and your property line. So she said gardens was kind of open and people could just look from the street and see you had some ripe shit and they just come on in there. She's talking about, she said, oh, them chillins. She still use chillins. My grandma was educated, but when she talks about children, she call them children. Them children used to come and get in the garden. She said, you never see a ripe tomato. That's why black folks got used to eating green tomatoes. She said, because people, when they would see they was ripe, they just come on in your yard and grab them and eat them like fruit. And I never wanted to eat tomatoes like fruit. I think that's nasty. Tomatoes is for fucking sauce as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, she said that's what people used to do. She said people used to raid people's gardens. Not to be nasty, but it was just kind of something that people did. They see you had a whole bunch of collard greens to come help themselves. And so gardening almost was kind of like a community thing. Whether it's not really stealing. People would just go get what they need out of folks' garden. But she said there was some people. I understand. I just took my grandma potatoes. I took her potatoes. This is how we got into the conversation about gardens. She said that it was common that people would share the shit anyway. They would share it anyway. You get a whole bunch of, beans or whatever, and you put them in a sack and you just take them down the street and give them a little bit to everybody. So she said because of gardening culture, people used to share food. So if somebody were to go in your yard and be, pulling stuff, you wouldn't necessarily like today be like, no, the hell you didn't, because people were more community oriented and everybody had a garden anyway. It wasn't like a big deal, Like in my neighborhood, lots of people have gardens, but we got our fences up. So ain't nobody finna, I had a couple of them, these nosy heifers, be talking about, oh, man, let me see your garden, And I'd be looking like, oh, no. So a lot of times they just trying to compare. These are older women I'm talking about in my community. Almost all the older women in my neighborhood got gardens. And so they look competitive. They be nosy as hell. What you growing? Let me see. They ride by slow. Hey, you growing something in your garden? Let me see. I'd be like, I know they're gonna be jealous. I know they're gonna be jealous. That's okay. That's all right. Sometimes I let them look, and sometimes I be like, oh, I ain't growing that. Depending on how I feel. Depending on how I feel. Anyway, So then my grandma was telling me about some lady. I think I think she Miss McLean or something. She said, and she said that her mom would give her 35 cents, and she would go to the lady's house, and that was the way the lady had income. So that's something I hadn't thought about too. That you had ladies, older women, because they always say like black women don't work. Well, the garden was actually work because in the community, these women would grow so much crops because they would become the local store. And she was telling me about all the different things that this Miss McLean used to grow. And she said, every day, multiple people would be sending their children down the street to go get collard greens, to go get turnip greens. And she said, she didn't have the shit like a store. You come and you tell her what you want. She go out in the garden and you stand there with her and she'd pick the stuff. She pick it for you and put it in a little sack and take the money. So that was a income for a lot of black women in the South. Have a garden and this person come get a cabbage, this person come get beans, and that's some food. It's like, for those who didn't grow gardens, didn't have a garden, or maybe your garden was just tomatoes, maybe your garden was just collard greens, you know. And so that's a daily income. You go out there, water your garden, do everything, and you were supplementing to a lot of people. All these people sending their kids or coming themselves, and basically you became the grocery store in your neighborhood, literally pulling the food out of the ground and selling it right there on the spot. I was like, see, you know how amazing that would be if we had that or we could recreate that. Wouldn't that be amazing for the black community? It would generate income. I mean, it has to be cost effective, but still, just the idea of it, it's pretty cool. It's pretty fucking cool. I'm driving kind of slow because I'm watching for these. Did I go past Monroe yet? I think I went past Monroe, Georgia. You got to be careful in Monroe. One thing I can say real quick about Athens is I decided to drive through where I used to hang out, and it was like a little bit disturbing. My aunt, I called her while I was driving through and was telling her what I was looking at. Because I'm from Athens, that's my hometown. That's where my family's from on both sides. And it has changed so much. They took the Varsity and the Dairy Queen, and I have so many. Varsity is a hot dog spot. I have so many memories. When you used to watch a UGA game, when you get done, you go to the Varsity and you eat your ass a hot dog and onion rings and all that. We got Varsity in Atlanta, but it's a hot dog spot for sports people. And that was a tradition for a long time. That Varsity been there for a long time. When my parents were children, it was there. And for me and my generation to see it gone, it really bothers me. And then they had this like walk up Dairy Queen, you know? And after you get done eating at the Varsity, you go over there and hang out. They blast music and they got all these tables and you sit outside and you eat ice cream at the Dairy Queen. This is before the Indian folks bought Dairy Queen, you understand? It was an old white couple. And they was serving that soft serve. That shit was good. And I will no longer have that anymore. They're building up stuff. And then my aunt, when I was talking to her about it, I said, oh my God, I can't believe it's gone. It is so bougie in Athens. It's starting to look like Atlanta. I am ashamed. My hometown is turning into, when I say it used to be so like mom and pops, they had all kind of just regular shops and hippie stuff and mom and pops just, young people would throw together a coffee shop. Everything was thrown the fuck together. And now everything is like Starbucks and upscale boutiques and Rodeo Drive. I'm just like, what the fuck happened? And I told my aunt, I was like, oh my God, because I used to go to all these like hippie stores. I used to dance all night in Athens when I was a teenager at this place called the Georgia Theater. They used to play rock bands. I was deep into rock music. Whatever band they had, boy, you see my black ass and I kick my shoes off. I'll be in there head banging and rock and rolling and just, oh, I was getting it, baby. I was getting it. And that's all they played. And I would go, and none of my cousins wanted to go. They just dropped my ass. We don't listen to no white folks. What the fuck? So they dropped my ass off. And I would go in there and have me a good ass time. Be like, come pick me up at 1 o'clock. So that's what I used to do at the Georgia Theater. It's actually more like a concert hall with lots of live bands. Athens is known for the live bands. They had the B-52s, REM, you know. There's a couple of other bands and people that come from Athens, but and what's her name? Annie something. I forgot her damn name. She comes from Athens. There's a lot of talented people that come from Athens. It's a land of, I mean, it's a city of, it's a town rather of bands and beer. So when I was a teenager, I used to sit out there and watch them white folks. You know, University of Georgia's right there. Just watch all them white folks get in bar fights and scream "woohoo" and get drunk and stop him, Steve, I love you, don't do that, don't punch him in the face like that, and watch Becky get knocked out and all the other shit. And oh, it was crazy. I used to just sit there and I watch him throw up. Let me hold your hair. You're throwing up. Let me hold your hair. You know, the white girls, they get mad and start coughing and choking and throwing up. And they want, hold my ponytail while they barf in circles. And that would trigger the other one to start barfing once you smell barf. And so they have barf in circles. I sat there and laughed. I just laughed and laughed and laughed. I had so many amazing experiences in my summers. I always spent my summers in Athens, no matter what age I was. So I got a sense for my hometown. I either my mama's family or my daddy's family. Both sides are from there. So anyway, my grandmama started talking to me about the garden culture. She was telling me how they used to send her to that lady house and they go get collard greens and stuff. And I told her, I said, you know something? Um, I heard about pot liquor. And before I could get pot liquor out of my mouth, she said, oh, I got pot liquor right now. I said, what? And she started explaining, I just listen. Not that I don't know some of this stuff. Doesn't matter. I want to hear her talk about it. And she said, yeah, pot liquor. She was talking about when you make collard greens and turnip greens and stuff like that. It's always been, Southern culture to take the juice because it produces a lot of juice. You take the juice left after you cook the collard greens and the turnip greens, and it pulls all them vitamins out into the juice. You've been cooking the shit out of it, and you pour it into different, either a pitcher or whatever. But she said she pours hers in different cups. So she said, then she said, sometimes after I, make my collard greens or whatever, I pour it into a juice. Sometimes I freeze it. But she said a lot of times she just put it in a pitcher in her refrigerator. And then she'll get a mug. She said a coffee mug. I was like, a coffee mug. I assumed that people drunk pot liquor cold. Nope. She said, I heat it up in the microwave and I sit there and I drink it while I'm watching TV. She said, girl, that's good stuff. That's what she said. Girl, that's good stuff. That's what my grandmama said to me. And the way she said it, you have to just hear her with a southern drawl. Girl, that's some good stuff. And so she has fond memories of pot liquor and drinking it. And she talked about, especially in the wintertime, it's good to drink pot liquor because she said what she say, the vitamin C and all the vitamins and stuff like that fortify you for the winter, keep you warm as well as prepare you for your immune system boost. I was like, okay, all right, grandma. Um, okay, now I'm at Monroe. Now after I get from Monroe, now this is the place where they had a lynching. Okay, and Monroe, you got to be careful. Now I would say this. I used to come through Monroe, but I went through here one day and I went and fuck around, used bathrooms. They didn't have a whole lot of restaurants at that time. This might have been 10 years ago. But whenever I was in graduate school, I fuck around and I went in here to this billiards and it was like, nigger alert. I was like, whoa, what's going on? Everybody stopped what they was doing. I could tell I was in the wrong spot. This is Monroe right here. But Monroe has changed since then. It has become gentrified and expanded. Y'all see all these lights over there? That shit did not exist. They got Starbucks over there now. They got everything. But for a long, long time, this place was highly underdeveloped. I don't even think they had a motherfucking, what you call it, McDonald's. It don't take but like 5 to 10 years. 5 to 10 years is all it takes. And before you know it, development comes and all these poor, rural, country, southern ass people who have pretty much no skills and welfare on their side, they be pushed out. I went through Monroe, so I wanted to see their Confederate monument and where that was at in front of their town hall. All these southern towns got Confederate monuments in the front. And I went to check on their Confederate monument. It's still there. Nobody touched it. But I went through their downtown. That shit used to have rocking chairs and Ace Hardware, all kind of raggedy ass, thrift stores and dumb shit. Man, that shit's so bougie now, looking like Rodeo Drive. I don't know what this is, this bougie movement that's coming through the South. But my aunt said, when I told her about what I was seeing, I said, oh my God, this live workspace and all this type of shit. This looks expensive. She said it is. She said at this point, there's a lot of people who are pushing back, people who are originally from Athens. They're mad because they can no longer afford to live in their own town. I said, well, welcome to down gentrification. Because Athens is just like Atlanta then. Uh-oh, I'm driving too fast. Let me slow my fucking ass down. I forgot about these curves right here. I forgot. Let me slow down. Slow down, man. I, after Monroe, I have to be careful because that's where the damn the deers are. After Monroe. They've had so much development, the niggas might have ran away because there's so much lights and shit out here. But after Monroe, I have to be careful because a lot of this is a stretch, and there's no development after Monroe. Okay, so that's where the deer be sitting. It's like they stand by a tree silently, quiet, and they wait till they see a car coming full speed, and them niggas just run out in front and be like, boom, fucking boom, like it's a game, and they get up and walk off, and your car fucked up. So I got to slow down here. I hope I don't. I haven't seen deer in a while, but I got to be careful. I don't want them niggas to. They just do that. That shit is crazy. And it's like they just be standing there and all of a sudden you take off running. What is wrong with you? Why are you running into the traffic? You got a death wish? What the fuck? The hell? What animal was trained to run in front of the traffic? Usually it's an accident. Nah, the deer like to run and hit the cars. They might work for the insurance companies. Who knows? Anyway. So yeah, I talked to my grandmama about the gardens and the pot liquor. And oh yes, she was talking to me about quilting. Quilting. Um, I learned some stuff about quilting that I didn't know. She explained to me in clothing. She explained to me, because black folks is gonna do what black folks do to survive. It doesn't mean that your family is like poor and broke, but it's kind of like cultural norms. And she said something I didn't know, which is that they used to. She said that they made quilts, and I never quite really thought about quilts this way. She said that a quilt was when you put it on. She was telling me about her quilts on her bed, and she said when you put on a quilt, it actually, for most black families in the South, it told the story of your family and everybody in it, and a quilt meant something. She said it meant something. I was like, huh? And she said, think about it. She said, your granddaddy, he got too many holes in his what do you call it, overalls that he worked on the farm. You cut off the good parts and you make squares and you put them on the quilt. And she said, and you got, rags that you didn't use. You use them and you stuff the quilt. So this is like real work and sweat of work done. It's stuffed into the quilt. Any kind of fabric. She said people didn't go to, the cloth world or Hobby Lobby and buy fabric. She said, we never did that. She said, you took clothing that was too old she said, after children, and I thought about that. She said, we used to pass clothes down. We don't do that. We don't do that anymore. Pass clothes down. So think about this. Each child has an experience with a pair of pants. You got three boys and three girls. They're going to wear the same damn clothes, okay? That girl going to wear that same dress her sister wore and the older sister wore. They pass them down. We don't do that. So that way, when you got a fabric that you cut, my grandma said like a polka dot or something, a green polka dot dress. That same everybody in the family has their green polka dot dress. So when they see the squares of the green polka dot dress, they got some connection to it. They wore it too. I'm like, damn, I never thought about that. And she said everybody in the family has contributed to the quilt because at some point or another, you can point out something that belongs to everybody in the family. And it's as soon as something's not good, you don't throw the fabric away. And they didn't take it to no Goodwill. That's what we do now. We take stuff to the Goodwill or we throw it away. They didn't do that. Everything becomes stuffing for the quilt or it becomes squares that are cut. And she talked about how the quilt also was done like quilting on an as needs basis. You never just finish the quilt. You know how we want to. I'm doing a project. I'm gonna go and get all the stuffing and stuff. No, it was a process. A quilt took almost a generation sometimes to make, between all the different people whose fabrics contributed to it, whose clothes the squares were cut. And she said, that was something. She said, we didn't have TV, we didn't have radio, we didn't have all that. She said, we used to come sit together with our neighbors and our family, and we quilt. We get to a table and we would quilt together. And she was like, we were literally sewing together the pieces of our lives, the work, the sacks, the whatever, the clothing that had been passed down. Everybody could look at that and be like, yeah, that's so and so's shirt, and that's so and so's that he used to wear to Sunday, church and this and that. You could pick out everybody who's contributed their clothing, to the quilt. I had never thought about quilts like that. I never did. And she said they stuffed it with rags and cloths and recycled things that they had used. Something maybe you wipe down your table with, or you polish your silver with. You would stuff inside of the quilt, and then you all, as a family, as women folk, would sit around and sew the pieces on. And she told me how it was made. It sounds complicated, but she said that nowadays people put one sheet of fabric on the back side of the quilt. She said they did not do that when she was young. She said that they took the flour and the sugar bags and sewed them together. And that's what took a long time too, because sometimes you didn't have enough sugar bags and flour bags. And I said, you mean they put burlap? That would be hard. She says, no, not burlap. They're soft. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. She said, sugar and flour used to be sold in some very soft bags. And she said, kind of like your sheet material you have for sheets. That's what your flour and your sugar used to come in. I said, ooh wee. And I said to myself, I said, God damn, that must have been a long fucking time ago. Because I ain't never seen no sugar or flour sold in no damn sack bag that's soft. I ain't never seen that. Now, I know my rice comes in a burlap bag. That's all I can relate to. But she said it was just soft. She said, matter of fact, that the kids, if they got, she said, for one kid, you use a sugar bag for one small child. She said for a bigger kid, you use two sugar bags. And for a really big kid, you use three sugar bags, sugar or flour bags. And I guess they were pretty plain, like they were just white, I guess. I don't know. I should ask her that. Did they have print on them? But I know you ain't walking around with a damn print across your shirt that say sugar. So I'm gonna have to ask her that. I'm gonna have to follow up. But she gave me all kind of pictures. She told me to take pictures of pictures and stuff like that. And so we've been doing that for a while. My family is good at documenting ancestry. They always have been. And my aunt is the historian on this side, and then I have a cousin. She's loony as a coon on the other side, Cheryl. She swears she's some kind of native Cherokee. We got that in there, but man, she be going overboard. She be going way overboard with the Indian shit. We trace our Freeman shit back to slavery. Good plan. Just stop it. She trying to erase the slavery part. I'm not. Matter of fact, when I go on Friday, I'm coming back on Friday. Now I'm in Loganville. You see how quick I got from Athens to here? I need to go back more often. So I'm going back on Friday. And when I go back on Friday, I'm going to possibly go to the plantation. I might go to the plantation. I'm definitely going to the Confederate Memorial, where my Freeman white family is inscribed on the Confederate monument. There are three white male Freemans from the Freeman plantation that died during the Civil War. And there's a Freeman plantation there. And as I said before, on both sides of my family, we have clarity that we have slavery as a fact. We came from slavery. And as a fact, we have white folk. And Cheryl started digging so deep with the Facebook page for the Freemans that the white folks started coming into the fucking mix, and that's when I stopped. I was like, I cannot. When the white Freemans that when the slave masters started joining the goddamn thing, I thought, okay, this is too much. You understand? It's something about the white proximity that I'm struggling with. I struggle with. I'm Southern. Fucking forgive me. When the white former slave, we got the same name still. We still got Smiths, white slave master Swift. They fucking exist. Okay, they're here, still connected. And the white slave master Freeman people, the Freeman plantation, with the three Civil War so-called veterans, white men who fought for the slavery to keep my black Freeman family. We got our name from them. It's all documented. I have a hard time when the white folks show up for the barbecue. They still live there. They still live in Oglethorpe. The white Freemans are right there. They ain't went nowhere. And the black Freemans are right there too. I can't deal with it. I just can't. So I took a break, but I might go back and I might just search the archives and stuff like that. So we're very good at doing our ancestral and genealogy and stuff like that. So um, I gotta face it. I gotta deal with it at some point. Take a breath. Whew. It's a lot. It's a lot. See, slavery for a lot of people is such so far distant, right? It's so far and distant. But for a lot of us Southerners, the Southern people don't leave. Y'all understand? They don't go no goddamn where. Southern people stay where the fuck they're from mostly. Okay, so that means that you got a lot of black people who their great great grandfather was a slave master, and they're still going to school with those who their great great grandfather enslaved. They're going to school together. Hell, matter of fact, some of them dating each other. You understand? Especially in these rural areas. The shit's crazy. These people don't leave. They stay generationally in these rural areas. So slavery is real fucking real. When you talking about you friends with the slave master's great great grandson is a goddamn sheriff. Okay? And we can point these plantations, they still there. It's real. Slavery is fucking real. It ain't no far distant history book shit. It's real as fuck. So that's why for me it's not easy. It's not easy dealing with some of this. We still got them white folks and they in our family, they walking. And they know us and we know them. Okay? We together. That's why I keep saying they cousins. We cousins. Just be across town. Across the river over there. You got the black side and you got the white side. And that's the only division. Shit's crazy. Fucking crazy. So I enjoyed my conversation with my grandmother and her talking to me about the fucking where am I at? Oh, I'm in Loganville now, okay. I was getting confused. I'm in Loganville. This area's grown up quite a bit too. This is the outer suburbs. This is the outer suburbs of Atlanta. This is you got Atlanta, DeKalb, Gwinnett, and then you have this. This is the outer suburbs. No, this is the outer. Sorry, outer suburbs. Atlanta, then DeKalb, inner suburbs, and then you got Gwinnett, outer suburbs, and this is Barrow County. The fuck is this is Walton? This is the outer suburbs. So this is three levels out of Atlanta. I live one level out of Atlanta. I live outside of 285. They don't no buses. They don't got no trains and buses and shit out where I live. Thank God. That's what makes it the burbs. But inside the perimeter is considered the city. So part of the cab is inside of the city and part of the cab's outside. So I live outside. And my area is in high demand. So we got gentrification like a motherfucker. They be harassing the shit out of us, boy. They want the cab county so bad. And it's all black. They don't know what to do. They want that shit bad. But we ain't going nowhere. Because most of the black folks, they can afford to stay put. Them inner city Atlanta folks couldn't afford to stay put, a lot of them. You know, when they take them taxes and shit all the way up, they be like, damn, we gotta go. We be like, and next, next. We ain't going nowhere. Fuck you. Anyway, I am about to end my stream, but I have to say that I thoroughly enjoyed my visit with my grandmother. And she's in great health. My grandmother does yoga. She's been doing yoga for a while. Um, she volunteers at the at a center, and she does a lot of volunteer praying for people. She's a pastor as well. And my grandmother also feeds through her church. They feed the hungry once a week, and so she goes there. And she was telling me the story about how she went and got $5. My grandma been doing it. You know, that's what old people do. They have some money and they pull it out and they fold it up real small and they walk up to you and they almost kind of raggedy aggressively grab your hand and stuff it in there. So that's what my grandmama said she do. She said she go and she get a whole bunch of money out the bank, a bunch of $5 bills, and she go down the line when they, you know, and she just say bless you. She put it in their hand. What a southern woman, right? What a southern woman. My grandmama is an essential southern woman, and she's so beautiful. She has all kind of brooches and jewelry. She has a lot of things. She's a pampered woman. That's what I can tell you. She's a pampered woman. She has all kind of floral brooches and jacket sets and stuff. And she said, oh honey, when I go out, she said I get sharp. She said, what else I got to do but take care of myself? So yeah, she was telling about her makeup regimen and not makeup, what you call it, skin regimen. My grandmama got better skin than me. How the hell? I even told her, I said, Nanny, I got more wrinkles than you. She said, that's all right, honey. That's all right. I said, no, it's not. It's not. You're fucking 85 and you don't have any wrinkles barely. And I have them. Oh, how is that? I don't know. But my grandmother's been taking care of herself for a long time. She's been retired since she was like, what, fucking 45? She retired. So my grandmother has had a stress free life. That's why she looks so good and she's so healthy. She was telling, she's very much on tech. So one of the things I did is I taught her how to use Google Image because she liked these shoes I got on. She said, where'd you get them? I said, honestly, I don't know. I got them from the thrift store. I said, but I'll show you how you can find them and what brand they are. And I put my shoe on the ground and I showed her. She said, show me on my phone. My grandma is serious about her technology now. She got her whole computer hooked up to a keyboard. I mean, her TV hooked up to a keyboard. She got a cable filtered this way, that way, and she got a Echo. She be talking to the Echo. My grandma is not getting left behind. She's got all the technology, and anytime you know anything technological, she wants to know too. She want to learn. So I taught her how to do Google Lens. So she found the shoes, and then she started looking up other stuff, different products that she had around the house. I had a good time with my grandma. So it was a great. Her birthday was several days ago, so I wanted to make sure that I paid her a visit. And you gotta appreciate, these people, these people in your family. They're not gonna be around forever. You gotta appreciate. My grandma old, and we were going through pictures, and she was showing me pictures of her over the years, and she was like, "I want you to have all of these pictures." Because this time when I'm not going to be here, and I'll just be saying to her, please stop saying that. But I know what she's saying is true. I recognize it. But anyhow, I enjoy going to see my nanny. And it's a blessing to be, you got some people in my age that, I'm 47, and you got people of this age that don't have parents anymore. God forbid, grandparents. So I have, she's my last grandmother. Yeah, she's my last grandmother. So, um, all grandfathers died a while back. So she's my last grandma, and there's a long history of love. A long history of love. I used to sleep in the bed with her when I used to come stay with her. She snuggle up with me, snuggle up, get warm. I'll never forget that. Never have any experiences like that with any other person but my grandmother. So those are sacred things. You'll never have these experiences again with that person, you know. So it matters. It matters. And life is for the living. So while they living, enjoy every bit you can. Enjoy everything. And my grandmother told me, this is the last thing I'm gonna say before I close. She told me, she said, I want my 90th birthday to be fabulous. And when she said fabulous, I know what she means. So I told her, I said, we're gonna make it happen. And she said, that's if I'm here. I said, Nanny, you'll be here. You'll be here. Because she's 85. She's 85. No, I'm sorry. She's not 85. She's 80. She's 85? She's 80. I think she's 84. She's 84. 84. Anyway, however long, however long. Was it 84 or 85? I'm not sure. Was it 87? I don't know. I'm trying to think. I told her last birthday. I think she had an 86. So yeah, she just turned 87. So it's what, 3 years till 90? Yeah. So I just told her, I said, you'll be here. That's fine. You'll be here. We'll make that fabulous party happen. We'll do it, and we will. Anyway, Ashe, um, love your elders. That's all I'm gonna say. Love your elders while they're here. Give them a call. Give them a hug, a kind word, attention, and just love. They ain't gonna be around forever. Ashe.